The story kicks off with Yonomori Kobeni stuck in a strange dream where she meets some random boy, and for a split second, it feels deep like destiny just brushed past her and kept it moving. Then she wakes up glowing because she just turned 16, and in anime rules that basically means childhood clocks out, while marriage eligibility clocks in. She walks downstairs trying to enjoy her main character moment, yet her older sister Benyo jumps her with a cake and over-the-top affection, so the morning already feels loud and dramatic. However, before Kobeni can recover from the sugar and sisterly chaos, their mother steps in and calmly announces that since Kobeni is now 16, the engagement arranged by her grandfather years ago is officially active. Just like that, the birthday sparkle gets deleted and replaced with cold shock, because nobody mentioned adulthood would come with pre-installed commitments. Then the real twist stands quietly in the living room. Her fiancé Hakuya is already there, silent and unreadable, almost like an NPC who forgot to load his personality settings. Their mother says Kobeni can think it over, acting fair about it. Hakuya accepts that decision without emotion, which somehow irritates Kobeni more than any argument would. A little reaction would help, but instead he stands there like calm furniture, while her world shifts. As if that is not enough, Hakuya's younger sister Mashiro enters with sharp energy and immediately starts listing Kobeni's flaws, like she runs a high-standard bride academy. She claims it is constructive. Meanwhile, Benio fires back and asks why Mashiro never critiques her own brother, who carries permanent quiet boy aura. Mashiro defends him proudly, and accepts every trait as premium quality, no refunds required. While the house debates personality settings, Kobeni worries about something practical and real, which is cooking for 2 extra people out of nowhere. She rushes to the market in mild panic, yet almost trips the moment she steps outside. Hakuya catches her smoothly and decides to walk with her for protection, and during that walk he mentions they used to play together as kids. Kobeni remembers nothing because of an accident from back then, so now Destiny apparently has backstory she cannot even access. Back home, Mashiro inspects the house like she expects hidden dust to confess crimes, although Benio shuts that energy down fast and makes it clear that if Mashiro even thinks about stressing Kobeni, the same strict pressure will be applied to her. That message lands heavy, and Mashiro quietly adjusts her tone. Later in the kitchen, Kobeni cooks curry while internally processing how she ended up in an arranged marriage arc without consenting to the script. Mashiro explains that in their village, this setup is standard, and that Hakuya grew up already aware he had a future bride waiting somewhere. She gets excited seeing curry since it is her favorite, although that excitement dies brutally when the spice level hits extreme and turns her into a sweating red disaster, fighting for dignity. Kobeni, too soft-hearted to let anyone suffer over dinner, asks for feedback and fixes the flavor with genuine care. The next day arrives with Hakuya's first appearance at school, and Mashiro handles the paperwork with almost suspicious efficiency. On the way, Kobeni's friend Mayura approaches them, and without hesitation Hakuya introduces himself as Kobeni's fiancé, which destroys any secret plan instantly, like a clean speedrun fail. Kobeni sets strict boundaries about zero engagement talk in class, yet fate keeps pressing forward because Hakuya lands in her class, and Mashiro transfers there too. Kobeni stares at Mashiro wondering how someone who looks 12 gets approved, only to learn she is nearly the same age, which feels like the universe deliberately stirring the pot for its own amusement. After that, the entire school goes into chaos because student council president Benio, who is both smart and athletic, shows up. She tells Mashiro to visit her in case of any problem, and causes Mashiro to run away. The students question Kobeni, who she is, so Kobeni brushes it off, saying Mashiro is her relative. Mayura mentions that the day Kobeni came to this school, everyone gathered to see her. Mayura's spotlight becomes heavy for Kobeni, as people compare her to her perfect sister, but Kobeni is now used to it. Hakuya quietly notices and gently comforts her, and when Kobeni sees Mashiro clinging to him, she advises her not to resist Mayuro too much, speaking from personal experience. Later at home, Mashiro still cannot process reality, because Benyo is somehow insanely popular at school, and Mashiro honestly wants to know who approved of her having this much main character energy. However, Benyo appears again like a smiling final boss, pretending to be harmless, and offers tea and snacks, and casually inviting Mashiro to visit the student council room, like it is totally not a trap. Mashiro's survival instincts immediately hit max level, because the moment Benio wants her alone, danger sirens go off in her head, and she panics and runs straight to her room like her life insurance depends on it. While eating dinner, Mashiro and Kobeni start talking about the time Kobeni once visited their village, and Mashiro is just about to casually drop the entire childhood accident lore, but Hakuya suddenly interrupts like a moderator shutting down a thread. Later in her room, Mashiro cannot understand why Hakuya blocks that story, especially since it was the perfect chance for him to gain husband points with Kobeni and level up the relationship. Hakuya calmly explains that if Kobeni forgot that memory, then maybe she never wants to remember it. And instead of forcing the past onto her, he chooses to respect her choice, acting like a shockingly mature human being. Meanwhile, Kobeni cannot stop thinking about it, because the way Hakuya reacts feels way too serious for something unimportant, and now her brain refuses to shut up. She decides to ask Mashiro directly, but her timing is cursed, because Mashiro has just finished watching a TV show about aliens, and is fully traumatized. That night, Kobeni lies in bed and thinks about her childhood, about how her grandfather used to take her into the mountains, where there was a massive house standing there like a forgotten save file. She wonders who used to live there, what happened, and why that place feels important, and then she falls asleep. The next day, Kobeni tries to talk to Mashiro again, but Hakuya has already told Mashiro not to share anything. So Mashiro does the only logical thing and runs away at full speed, immediately slipping and falling like a cartoon character. At school, Kobeni takes care of her like a responsible big sister, helping her up and making sure she is fine, but staying near Mashiro for too long activates Benio's radar. Benio instantly appears and captures Mashiro like a rare Pokemon, and with alien theories still rotting her brain, Mashiro starts questioning reality itself. She decides Benio must actually be an alien who controls the entire school using mind control. Benio and Mashiro start laughing, because the truth is painfully normal and way less fun, since Benio earns her fame through top scores, hard work, and sports achievements like a functioning overachiever. Benio gently remarks she only wants to be a big sister, and if Mashiro wants, she can be her big sister too, just like Kobeni is. Mashiro instantly rejects the offer with zero hesitation and zero regret, but Benio's obsession does not drop even 1%, and she keeps chasing Mashiro around until the student council vice president drags Benio away by force, saving Mashiro's sanity and possibly her lifespan. After that, the atmosphere finally calms down, and Mayura casually asks where Mashiro and Hakuya live. Mashiro answers without hesitation that they obviously live at Kobeni's house. Kobeni immediately panics and tries to shut her up before more damage happens, but Mashiro feels deeply offended because she genuinely thinks there is nothing to hide, and then the bomb detonates. The entire class finds out that Mashiro and Hakuya are living together with Kobeni, which indirectly means they are also living under Benio's roof, and the room explodes into gossip and silent judgment. Kobeni mentally collapses, but still thanks God that at least no one knows about the engagement yet, because that revelation would have erased her from existence on the spot. The next morning at breakfast, Mashiro happily eats bread loaded with cheese like it is the only stable thing in her life, while Benio asks if Mashiro wants to hear about her dream. Mashiro immediately shuts it down and says it must be something stupid, because she has zero emotional budget for Benio content before breakfast. Benio of course ignores that and starts explaining her dream anyway. Hakuya interrupts halfway, and calmly drops emotional damage by saying Mashiro is selfish, unpredictable and terrible at dealing with people who are even more stubborn than she is. Mashiro hits him and tells him he is absolutely not helping, while Benio politely thanks him for the free information. When their mother asks Hakuya what he likes to eat, he answers without hesitation that he likes whatever Kobeni makes. At school, Kobeni is already stressed about the sports activity, and openly admits she is bad at it. When Mayura asks about Hakuya's performance in sports, Mashiro remarks he is fine. A guy runs toward Hakuya with the ball, but Hakuya simply looks at him with pure intimidation, and the boy hesitates, panics, and later claims it was too hard anyway, because fear is also a valid excuse. Meanwhile, Kobeni realizes it has already been 2 weeks since Hakuya joins the class, and somehow she still knows absolutely nothing about him, which feels illegal. While Kobeni struggles through her activity, Mayura casually tells Mashiro that Kobeni does not know this, but she is actually pretty popular at school. Later in class, Mashiro thinks Kobeni is unfairly good at everything: school, house chores, and on top of that, she is popular like a limited edition character. Mashiro gets so annoyed that she angrily wakes Hakuya from his zoning out session and reminds him that Kobeni is literally his fiancé, and if he keeps spacing out like a background NPC, he is going to lose her, so he needs to lock in immediately. Right after that, Benio appears again to invite Mashiro for tea at the student council room, and asks her to join a fashion show she is preparing. But Mashiro immediately tears the invitation apart like a villain rejecting a side quest. The vice president Nadeshiko rushes in, calms the situation before reality breaks, and Mashiro somehow ends up agreeing to go anyway. After school, Hakuya and Kobeni walk home alone, and Kobeni keeps thinking she should start a conversation, but instead she tells him he can go home first because she needs to do grocery shopping. Hakuya calmly says he will go with her because leaving would make too much sense. At the store, the crowd is massive, so Hakuya decides to buy the ingredients himself like a brave idiot, and ends up getting injured. Kobeni tells him to wait, and goes to buy rice balls for him and Mashiro. Back at home, Kobeni shows Mashiro the rice balls, and Mashiro immediately runs to Hakuya and announces that Kobeni buys rice balls for them, because she sees them as family now. Hakuya tells Mashiro to thank Kobeni properly, and also decides to thank their mother, because basic manners still exist. The next morning, Kobeni wakes up and finds Benio right next to her. They wish a good morning to each other, and Kobeni leaves. Benio immediately calls Nadeshiko to complain that Kobeni's reaction is cold, as if she expects a fan club response before breakfast. Meanwhile, Hakuya receives a letter from home, and reads it aloud for Mashiro. After that, everyone eats the sweets Kobeni makes, and Mashiro notices Hakuya finishes his even though he dislikes sweets, which triggers Kobeni to remember him saying he likes whatever she makes. Later, Mashiro writes the reply letter for Hakuya, and when Kobeni asks where he is, Mashiro remarks he went to send it. Baunio sits alone in her room, when Kobeni suddenly appears and questions why Baunio never wants her to have a boyfriend, but is suddenly fine with Hakuya. Baunio finally explains the childhood accident. When Kobeni visits the mountain house, falls from a cliff, and Hakuya saves her, Kobeni realizes she should never have forgotten that moment, and the memory clicks back into place like a delayed plot twist, finally loading. After everything comes out, Kobeni starts wondering if she should apologize to Hakuya for forgetting him or thank him for literally saving her life. She feels dizzy and collapses like her system shuts down without warning. At the same time, Benti tells Mashiro that Kobeni now knows the truth about the childhood accident. Mashiro remarks Hakuya is fine with Kobeni forgetting, and asks why Benti waits until now to reveal anything. Benio admits the truth hurts, because that day she was supposed to go with her grandfather, but she wanted to play with her friends instead, so she asked him to take Kobeni, and everything that happens after feels like her fault. Before the guilt speech can fully destroy her, Kobeni appears, weak but clear-headed, tells Benio it is not her fault at all, and then collapses again like a dramatic mic drop. After that chaos, Benio tells everything to Hakuya, and honestly thinks he would have told Kobeni by now. Mashiro reveals Hakuya told her not to say anything to Kobeni. After that, Benio trauma dumps everything onto Nadeshiko, who calmly tells her that Kobeni does not blame her at all, and that self-hate is not character development. Meanwhile, Kobeni lies in bed and wonders how she is supposed to face Hakuya now, and her brain unlocks a strange old memory, where she remembers something fluffy and warm with him, which raises more questions than answers. The next day, Benio tells Mashiro and Hakuya that Kobeni is sick and will not go to school. Hakuya decides to stay with her, but Benio stops him and remarks she will stay instead. Kobeni, irritated and feverish, tells Benio to go to school already, and then everyone leaves. At school, Mashiro tells Mayura about her condition and admits she does not know Kobeni's body is this weak. Mayura explains this happens every year, which is why Kobeni cannot join field trips, and then asks if Hakuya looks depressed because Kobeni is absent, because gossip never sleeps. Back at home, Kobeni is thirsty and drenched in sweat when Mashiro helps clean her. Kobeni asks if she can see the wound on her back. She asks if it happens when Hakuya saves her, and Mashiro honestly remarks she does not know. Kobeni admits she does not remember the accident because she was unconscious for a whole month, and asks if Hakuya experiences similar, and again Mashiro has no answers. Kobeni wonders if this is why Benio is so overprotective. When Mashiro leaves the room, Hakuya is standing at the door like an emotional jump scare. The next morning, Kobeni feels better and prepares for school, but the moment she sees Hakuya, her emotions betray her, and she almost cries. Hakuya sees this, panics, runs away and injures himself again, because self-preservation is clearly not his skill. Kobeni chases after him and finds him sitting alone, convinced she hates him now that she knows everything. Kobeni apologizes instead, blaming herself for causing his injuries, but Hakuya remarks if he takes better care of her. None of this happens. They argue in circles about whose fault it is, until Kobeni realizes they are late for school. She finally thanks him for saving her life, and Hakuya smiles, shocking her because she just discovers he can do that. At school, Kobeni tells everything to Mayura, who immediately declares them soulmates like it is scientifically proven. Kobeni wants to know Hakuya better but has no idea how, so Mayura walks up to Hakuya and asks what he likes. Hakuya answers Kobeni without hesitation, causing Kobeni to blush so hard. Mashiro then tells Kobeni that Hakuya cannot live without her, loves her deeply, and if she leaves him he will stay single forever and die alone. Meanwhile, Benio talks to Nadeshiko, who warns her to stop interfering in Kobeni's life, unless she wants Kobeni to hate her. That night, while cooking dinner, Kobeni asks Benio what Hakuya's hometown looks like, and Benio does not remember. At the same time, Hakuya quietly asks Mashiro if he should tell Kobeni about his family, and Mashiro tells him he needs to get closer first. Right on cue, an arrow flies in with a letter from home, revealing someone will come to check how things are going. After that, Kobeni casually asks Hakuya how old Mashiro is, because Benio already orders pajamas for her like this is a long-term investment. Hakuya answers that Mashiro is a 10th grader. Kobeni becomes suspicious, and right on cue Mashiro walks in wearing a full catsuit like reality has officially resigned. And Kobeni asks her age directly. Mashiro declares she is 10 years old, and Kobeni wonders how a 10-year-old is in high school. She politely assumes Mashiro must have skipped many grades. Feeling confident, Kobeni decides tomorrow's test will be easy for Mashiro because clearly this child is built differently. Kobeni then talks about how amazing Benio is as a student, and remarks she should be more like her, while Hakuya pets her head. He casually drops the information that someone from their home is coming to visit soon. Mashiro immediately clarifies they are coming to see Kobeni because she is going to marry into their family. The next day, the test ends without disasters, and Kobeni invites Mashiro to eat in the cafeteria. While sitting together, Kobeni tells Mashiro that someone from Hakuya's family is going to visit their house. Mashiro instantly realizes Kobeni is totally fine with Hakuya now, and Kobeni starts blushing like her brain overheats. From a distance, Benio watches all this and unlocks jealousy mode. Nadeshiko comments that maybe Kobeni has grown up, and Benio admits she is grateful to Hakuya, but feels annoyed that Kobeni talks to others more than to her, despite Benio being the self-appointed emotional support boss. Later at home, Kobeni overthinks everything about the upcoming guest, so Hakuya calmly pet her head, reassuring her. After that, Kobeni goes out to buy groceries and runs into Hakuya, who is also out buying things for Mashiro. While walking back, Kobeni suddenly remembers she forgets an ingredient, and tells Hakuya to go home first. On the way, she meets a woman who asks if she knows where the first block is. Kobeni is heading there too and decides to walk with her, even helping carry her bags. Kobeni notices the woman is wearing a kimono, and assumes she must be from a rich family, because anime logic never fails. When they reach Kobeni's home, the woman remarks she has been looking for this residence, and Kobeni instantly feels her soul leave her body. Mashiro appears and announces this woman is their mother. Benio greets her politely, but internally questions how this is possible, because the woman looks suspiciously young. Benio offers to make tea, but Kobeni insists on doing it herself like a responsible future daughter-in-law. Hakuya's mother gives Kobeni some food she brings with her and asks about Kobeni's mother. She questions Hakuya how he is doing, then checks Kobeni's condition and happily declares she is glad Kobeni will join their family. She explains their clan has diminished and modern development leaves them little space to live, and Hakuya uses his powers to protect Kobeni. Mashiro panics, because no one tells Kobeni anything yet. Hakuya's mother casually drops a nuclear bomb, asking if they have not told Kobeni that they are not human either. Kobeni freezes and unlocks a memory of being a child with a dog, where Hakuya's mother introduces the dog as Hakuya himself. Realizing the truth, Kobeni feels sick, and Hakuya's mother apologizes, admitting not everyone has a strong mind like Benio, who is fine with the nuclear bomb. Later, she visits Kobeni again and explains that when Kobeni was injured as a child, Hakuya transferred half of his power to save her. Because those powers are not human, Kobeni's body cannot fully handle them, which causes her weakness. Later, when Kobeni wakes up and processes the fact that Hakuya and Mashiro are not human, Hakuya's mother appears one more time, and reminds her how she used to pet Hakuya's head and how much he liked it. Kobeni finally understands why Hakuya pets her head so often now, and immediately gets embarrassed. Later that day, Kobeni's mother admits she already knows the truth, saying it is hard to accept at first. But if they were just ordinary humans, Kobeni would probably not even be alive. So reality does not care about comfort and wins by default. At breakfast, Kobeni immediately jumps to questions if Hakuya and Mashiro are dogs. Mashiro explains that when they are young, their forms are unstable, so they switch between human and animal shapes, but adults like her have perfect control. While going to school, Kobeni asks again if they can transform freely, and asks to see it. Hakuya shuts that down instantly, saying they are in public, and he does not want to cause a scandal, get arrested or end up in a lab. At school the teacher announces test results, and Hakuya gets first place. He explains that since he has no hobbies he only studies. Mashiro gets a low score and admits she never skips grades, she just blends in, so high school is already hard for her. Kobeni asks if Hakuya is the same age as her, and if he can transform now. And once again he refuses, like a man trapped in an endless loop. During sports class, Kobeni asks if Hakuya is a dog, and if that means Mashiro and the others are also like that. When Mashiro refuses to answer, Kobeni asks if those questions bother her. Mashiro remarks they do not bother her but they will bother Hakuya and he will never transform in front of Kobeni. Mayura suddenly appears, correctly guessing they are talking about Hakuya, and reminds Kobeni that Valentine's Day is coming, and she should give him chocolate. Since Hakuya hates sweet things, Mashiro advises her to ask if there is any chocolate he actually likes. After school during cleaning time, Kobeni approaches Hakuya to wake him up. Remembering what his mother told her, she accidentally pets his head. Hakuya reacts like he is struck by lightning and falls off his chair as if gravity personally attacks him. Kobeni realizes what she does and runs away in full system error mode. Later, Mayura asks if she ever asks Hakuya what chocolate he likes. Hakuya walks in at the worst possible moment, and Kobeni blurts out that they need to go somewhere and tells him to go home alone. After that they go buy chocolate, and Mashiro comes home carrying an absurd amount, looking like she plans to start a business. While Kobeni prepares chocolate for Hakuya, Banio appears, and Kobeni suddenly asks what she should do with her life. Admitting she has no big dreams and wonders if she should just get married. Banio asks what she wants to be as a child, and Kobeni admits she once wrote an essay about becoming a housewife. Banio asks if she does not like Hakuya, and Kobeni denies it instantly. Banio remarks she wants to see Kobeni in a wedding dress, but also does not want her to get married. Banio ends up upset and confused, but Valentine's Day arrives anyway. Kobeni gives chocolate to everyone while acting totally normal, until Hakuya appears and her brain shuts down. She blushes, and remarks they are late for school and runs away. At school she exchanges chocolate with Mayura, but still cannot give any to Hakuya. Later, she calls him to the rooftop, watches everyone else exchanging chocolate around them, gets overwhelmed, and runs away again. Hakuya finally realizes it is Valentine's Day, and assumes Kobeni does not give him chocolate because she hates him. So after school he sits alone, emotionally destroyed like a rejected side character. At home, everyone slowly returns and starts exchanging chocolate. Mayura casually asks Hakuya if Kobeni gives him chocolate, since she prepared it yesterday. When Kobeni's mother gives Hakuya chocolate, Kobeni suddenly asks if he wants one from her too. She hands it to him and smiles, and just like that Hakuya's emotional damage is instantly healed. The final exams end, and Mashiro immediately declares that this calls for a party. Right on cue, Banio appears and invites Mashiro to the student council room for tea and snacks like a boss handing out loot. The secretary Konoha shows up, and Mashiro asks who she is. Mashiro explains she is from the next class and also the student council secretary. When Konoha looks at Mashiro, she suddenly turns her face away, which confuses Mashiro. Later, Konoha thinks about the first time she meets Banio, back when she was new, lost and emotionally underleveled. Banio helped her without hesitation, and that moment hits so hard that Konoha decides she will attend Banio's school no matter what. But then she learns Banio already has a little sister, and her inner jealousy patch installs. She admits she wants to be Banio's little sister herself, and Mashiro somehow annoys her just by existing. She starts glaring at Mashiro from the doorway like a cursed NPC, terrifying Mashiro without even moving. Just then another girl shows up and asks to take photos of Konoha for a newspaper article. Konoha complains that Kobeni and Mashiro get special treatment from Banio, and remarks she wants dirt on them for possible blackmail. Nico happily offers to help her. Nico approaches Kobeni and asks for help, pretending it is because she is Banio's sister. Kobeni politely refuses, so Nico dumps a stack of questionnaires on her and leaves. Hakuya notices Kobeni's mood and asks if she dislikes being compared to Banio. Kobeni claims she does not like it, but she is already used to it, which is sad and impressive at the same time. Nico then goes to Mashiro and starts asking about her relationship with Banio, causing Mashiro to panic internally. Konoha sees this, fears Banio's wrath, and tries to stop Nico, but Nico ignores her and runs off like she just unlocked a side quest. The final exam results come out, and plot twist hits hard because Hakuya scores 25, which means he has to take a makeup exam. Mashiro immediately orders Kobeni to help him study, and Mayura joins them in a group project arc. While studying together in the library, Nico secretly watches them and remarks that Benio's sister is actually smart. She sends a selfie of her investigation to Konoha, who panics internally. Mashido needs to use the bathroom, but the school in the evening feels like a horror game, so Mashido closes her eyes and runs. Nico happens to be there, thinks Mashido is chasing her, and hides in the bathroom. Because of sudden movement she gets hurt, and makes scary noises. Mashido hears this and runs even faster, convinced there is a ghost. She sees Konoha on the stairs and mistakes her for a monster, because fear deletes logic. The next day, Hakuya and Mayura prepare for the makeup exam. Kobeni asks if Hakuya feels confident, and he claims he will be fine because she taught him. When Kobeni asks Mashiro how she passes the exam, Mashiro casually admits she uses the same power she uses to get into the school in the first place. Kobeni asks Hakuya if he has that power too, and he remarks he is actually a normal high school student and cannot cheat, which makes Kobeni smile for real. After that, Kobeni and Mashiro head home, and run into Konoha on the way. Mashiro casually asks if she is from the mountains, shocking Konoha instantly. When Mashiro asks what she wants, Konoha remarks she wants Mashiro to be nicer to Benio. Kobeni realizes Konoha is not human like them, and Hakuya admits he senses it earlier, but does not mention it because he thought it is unimportant. Later, Konoha meets Nico and admits she fights with Mashiro, and while talking about her she quietly wonders if they are actually the same kind of being. Konoha opens up and admits she grows up in the mountains as a very simple and average girl, but when she moves to the city she reinvents herself. Kobeni later asks Mashiro if Konoha is actually the same kind as them, and Mashiro confirms. While cooking, Kobeni wonders how they never met her before. Mashiro shrugs and claims she probably lives with a different group, because even supernatural beings have social circles. Benio suddenly walks in and asks what they are whispering about. Kobeni panics for half a second and remarks it is a secret. Benio instantly looks hurt and decides this must be Kobenio's rebellious phase, then dramatically teases Mashiro. During sports class, Konoha thinks about how she is supposed to face Benio now, and keeps wondering if Hakuya and Mashiro are the same as her. Nico shows up, and Konoha firmly tells her to stop investigating Kobeni and Mashiro, and write a different article before she ruins everyone's life. When Nico leaves, Kobeni approaches her and tells her she will not tell anyone about her. Konoha misunderstands, and thinks Kobeni is threatening to blackmail her, because paranoia is now her full-time job. Later, Kobeni questions Hakuya, how he knows she is one of them. Hakuya answers honestly that it is just intuition, which sounds fake but somehow works. Meanwhile, Benio is quietly panicking because Kobeni is clearly hiding something from her, and Benio does not handle secrets well. Later, Kobeni and others go out to buy food. Mashiro stands there confused because she wants to try everything like a tourist. Kobeni asks Hakuya what he wants, and he passes like a monk with no desires. When Kobeni buys food and realizes it has way too many calories, she casually gives half to Hakuya. Mayura immediately points out they are getting along very well, and Kobeni blushes hard and denies it while doing absolutely nothing to disprove it. Later they go shopping, and Kobeni tries on jeans that absolutely refuse to cooperate with her body. Nico secretly watches, notices Kobeni is insecure about her body, and before things get worse, Hakuya catches her spying. Mayura tells Nico that Kobeni does not like articles written about her, and asks her to stop. Nico finally backs off, but immediately calls Konoha to deliver fresh gossip, like a professional menace. Afterward, Kobeni gently suggests to Mashiro that she should try getting along with Konoha, since they are the same kind. Mashiro immediately rejects the idea because Konoha is Benio's friend, and that is already suspicious enough. Meanwhile, Konoha keeps thinking about Mashiro and Hakuya, and decides she needs confirmation. She asks Mashiro to go to the rooftop with her. Kobeni asks if she can come too, but Konoha refuses. She wants to talk to Mashiro alone. Hakuya quietly follows them, because he knows no one will notice him anyway. Benio watches this from afar and assumes the whole thing is about her, because of course she does. On the rooftop, the wind is so strong that Mashiro and Konoha cannot hear each other, so they decide to move and jump toward the gym side, like gravity is optional. Benio arrives at the rooftop dramatically and finds no one, feeling betrayed by the universe. Mashiro and Konoha finally confirm they are the same kind, and everything clicks into place. Kobenio grows worried and heads to the rooftop too, where Benio asks her about Mashiro and Konoha. Kobenio calmly tells her it is not about her and walks away, which emotionally devastates Benio. Kobenio then sees Mashiro crying because Konoha admits she originally lives with Benio for personal reasons. Hakuya arrives and quietly hands Mashiro a chocolate like emotional first aid. Konoha asks Hakuya if he is also interested in Benio. Mashiro immediately confirms none of them come after Benio, and Konoha casually remarks Hakuya is not her type, but her mother always tells her that if she ever finds someone of her kind, she should never let him go. Right then, Kobeni walks in, and Konoha suddenly proposes to Hakuya, proving once again that peace is never an option. Hearing this, Kobeni becomes completely shocked, as if her brain shuts down for a moment. She stumbles backward, loses balance, and falls to the ground in front of everyone. Kobeni panics and blurts out that she hasn't heard anything, which only makes the situation worse. Konoha immediately notices how terrible Kobeni is at lying, and Kobeni runs off from there. Mashiro steps in before things get worse, and explains that Kobeni and Hakuya are already engaged, so Konoha should stay away from them. Konoha becomes even more confused and wonders if Kobeni and Benio are similar people. Mashiro quickly clears that misunderstanding, and explains they are completely different. Mashiro avoids details and explains that they have their own reasons, which conveniently ends the topic. Meanwhile, Kobeni's thoughts spiral as she wonders if Konoha likes Hakuya. Right then, Hakuya appears and checks if she is fine. Kobeni awkwardly wonders if it wasn't strange for him to follow her when marriage was being discussed earlier. Hakuya reassures her, claiming he is already engaged to her. Unfortunately, Nico overhears this and immediately assumes they are dating. Hakuya denies, knowing Kobeni wanted to keep it quiet. This hurts Kobeni more than expected, and the realization of her feelings hits her all at once. She blushes deeply and runs away again, choosing emotional retreat as her main strategy. Later, Kobeni asks Mashiro what she and Konoha talked about. Mashiro explains that Konoha thinks Mashiro came to school because of Benio. Benio overhears this conversation from nearby, because dramatic timing never fails her. Around the same time, Nico approaches Konoha, and mentions that Kobeni and Hakuya denied dating. Konoha immediately assumes this is an arranged marriage, and convinces herself that if they are unhappy, she still has a chance. At home, Benio asks Mashiro about Konoha, and Mashiro explains that Konoha felt embarrassed because of Benio's overwhelming popularity. Kobeni adds that Benio's fame keeps dragging Mashiro into trouble like an unwanted side effect. Benio considers talking directly to Konoha, but Kobeni stops her and insists it was all a misunderstanding. She then claims Konoha is jealous of her closeness with Mashiro, and casually asks if Kobeni feels jealous too. Kobeni goes silent for a moment, then admits she is. The next morning on the way to school, Mashiro reveals that she already informed Konoha that Kobeni and Hakuya are dating. Kobeni instantly panics and worries that if this news spreads, her peaceful school life will collapse. Later at school, Kobeni sits alone until Mashiro approaches and decides to secretly take pictures of Benio to bribe Konoha into keeping the secret. Later, Mashiro tries to take photos, but Benio catches her instantly, and Konoha loudly calls her out. Kobeni steps in and pulls Konoha aside to talk privately. She begs her not to tell anyone about the engagement with Hakuya. Konoha explains she never planned to reveal it, and suggests that if Kobeni is unhappy, calling off the engagement might be an option. This breaks Kobeni completely, and tears start falling. Benio arrives at the worst possible moment, and Konoha becomes terrified. Kobeni quickly pretends that something got into her eye. Benio checks if they are friends now, and Konoha awkwardly confirms they have been talking lately. Benio warns her to be kind to Kobeni and Mashiro and leaves. Hakuya arrives soon after and checks on Kobeni. Benio casually blames the incident on poor school cleanliness and mentally schedules it for the next student council meeting. Meanwhile, Mashiro keeps taking pictures, gets caught again, and Benio jokingly assumes Mashiro is obsessed with her, only to be corrected immediately. Later at home, Hakuya quietly builds a tiny house using matchsticks. Kobeni gives cake for Mashiro, and even offers some to Hakuya, carefully mentioning it is not too sweet. She explains that asking him to hide the engagement was never about rejecting marriage, but about not getting into everyone's eyes. Mashiro finally realizes that Kobeni truly likes Hakuya. Benio overhears this moment, reacts with pure jealousy and hits Hakuya instantly. Mashiro reminds him that White Day is coming, and he should prepare something meaningful for Kobeni, assuming he survives Benio's jealousy first. During breakfast, Benio acts strangely, giving off this mix of jealousy and possessiveness that confuses everyone at the table. Mashiro notices it immediately and points out to Hakuya that Benio seems jealous of him because he and Kobeni are getting all romantic. Benio declares that Kobeni is her little sister, and nothing will ever take her away. Then she turns to Mashiro to remind her that she is still her little sister, leaving Hakuya completely baffled. Kobeni cannot figure out why Benio is acting so possessive, and Mashiro lightly teases her that it's probably because she admitted she likes Hakuya. Kobeni's face turns bright red in protest and she hurriedly clarifies that she didn't say she liked him, only that she has no problem with Hakuya being her fiancé, which is technically true but somehow less dramatic sounding. On the way to school, Mashiro casually reminds Hakuya that White Day is a pressing matter, giving him a little nudge about doing something thoughtful for Kobeni, while Kobeni, ever practical, mentions he doesn't really need to get her a present, probably to save him from overthinking. The three meet Konoha, and Kobeni plans to talk to her later. At school, Kobeni hands Konoha a cake and explains that she doesn't like standing out like her sister does. It's not that she is unhappy about her engagement, she just doesn't want the news to spread. Konoha is stunned, clearly not expecting such honesty. Then Nico shows up, and Konoha tells her, realizing it's already over before it even began. She heads to the student council room afterward, and finds Benio in an unusually bad mood. Nadeshiko points out that Benio is upset because her sister is getting closer to her fiancé. However, Konoha wonders why Kobeni didn't reveal all of this earlier. Mayura notices Hakuya in class, and asks what happened to him. Mashiro quietly explains that his relationship with Kobeni has leveled up, which immediately earns a congratulations from Hakuya. Hakuya then asks if they are a couple now, and Kobeni is officially his waifu now. Kobeni hears this and begins to panic, feeling timid. She remarks that she needs to sort out her feelings first, and Mayura, along with Mashiro, wisely leaves them alone. Hakuya decides it's best to head home for now, and the two stand outside the school together, with him asking if he can text her sometimes, which is awkward but sweet. Meanwhile, Benio spies on them through a window and calls out, reminding them students need to go home in a group. Mashiro, always ready to interfere, hits Benio for interrupting, but Kobeni realizes both of them were secretly watching her, which annoys her to no end. Later, Konoha is approached by Nico, who asks about information she may have learned from Benio about Kobeni. The next morning, the entire school watches a published article praising Kobeni as a good cook, though most of it is actually about Benio. Konoha quietly expresses satisfaction at being able to help in her own way. At home, Kobeni asks Mashiro if Konoha likes Hakuya, and Mashiro clarifies that Konoha doesn't have romantic feelings. She is interested in him because they are of the same being, which is somehow even more confusing. After that, Mashiro adds that Kobeni herself is also partially like them, since Hakuya transferred half of his powers to her, hinting that their bond is stronger than it looks. Mashiro advises Kobeni to focus on her relationship with Hakuya and not worry about Konoha. Just then, Benio and Hakuya arrive, and Mashiro nudges Hakuya to give Kobeni a matching pair gift for White Day, starting the mini gift saga. The next day at school, Hakuya researches White Day gift ideas on his phone, clearly taking this seriously. He tells Kobeni and Mashiro that he has a plan, and suggests going home separately. Both of them go shopping for White Day gifts, and coincidentally meet on the way back. Kobeni thinks it's the perfect moment, and gives him a matching handkerchief, asking him to keep it secret from Benio. But of course, Benio appears and overhears, feeling a pang of jealousy. To smooth things over, Kobeni also gives matching handkerchiefs to Benio and Mashiro, making sure everyone is included. Later at home, Mashiro tells Hakuya that he needs to come up with an even better present for Kobeni. He acknowledges, realizing this is no longer a simple gift exchange, but a full-on battle he must win at all costs, because in the world of romance, losing is not an option. Bensalino sits alone in her room, quietly playing with the handkerchief Kobeni gifted her. Kobeni walks in, and Benio brings up the article about Kobeni published at school, admitting she forced the newspaper club to make extra copies just for her. Kobeni feels embarrassed, and Benio gets annoyed because the article barely praises Kobeni enough, clearly offended on her sister's behalf. Kobeni explains she never wanted an article about herself in the first place. At the same time, Mashiro happily admires her own handkerchief, like she won a prize at a festival. She checks with Hakuya whether Kobeni gave her a normal one, and that is when he finally realizes Kobeni gave him a matching handkerchief. His mood improves like a game character leveling up. However, Mashiro pushes him to prepare a better gift for Kobeni. Back at school, Nico approaches Konoha and explains that her senior stopped her from writing more about Kobeni because Benio requested it. But Nico declares she will not stop, and runs off. Meanwhile, Hakuya sits in class looking unusually troubled. Mayura notices immediately and connects the dots, understanding that this stress is all about Kobeni's gift. When asked what Kobeni might like, Mayura confidently explains that Kobeni would appreciate anything Hakuya manages to give her. After school, Mashiro conveniently disappears and leaves Hakuya and Kobeni to walk home alone, clearly playing matchmaker. Along the way, Kobeni wonders if Haku's bangs ever bother his eye. He brushes it off, explaining he is used to it by now. Elsewhere, Mashiro buys chocolate for Kobeni as a thank you gift and notices no one around. She decides jumping off a house is the fastest way home, because walking is apparently optional. Miko witnesses this suspicious movement, but fails to identify Mashiro, who immediately hides and avoids becoming tomorrow's headline. Later at home, Mashiro explains everything to Kobeni, including the dramatic rooftop shortcut. Hakuya reacts strongly and scolds her, clearly worried. Mashiro runs off in tears, feeling bad for causing trouble, and later apologizes to Kobeni, admitting she understands how dangerous it would be if people learned the truth about them. At school, Kobeni quietly wonders what would happen if people discovered everything about Hakuya and Mashiro, and whether they would leave. Makeup test results are announced, and Mayura performs well, creating a brief moment of relief. Around the same time, Miko approaches Konoha, excitedly claiming she saw a flying human. Konoha immediately wonders if Mashiro is involved, connecting dots faster than expected. Shortly after, Miko bumps into Hakuya and mentions she has found something more interesting than bothering Kobeni, leaving him both relieved and slightly concerned about what that could mean. Later at home, Kobeni invites Mashiro to join them the next day on their date. The next morning, Mashiro decides she wants to watch a movie. When Benio learns about their outing, she insists on joining too, but Nadeshiko intervenes and drags her away for student council duties, saving the situation unintentionally. The trio goes to the movie theater together, but Hakuya ends up sleeping through most of it. After the movie, the group eats together and heads to an amusement park. Mashiro pauses to admire flowers, and Kobeni comments that there must be plenty of flowers in the mountains. Mashiro confirms this, and Kobeni quietly mentions she would love to cook alongside them. As the day ends, Mashiro reflects on how fun everything was. Hakuya, however, internally refuses to call it a proper date, since they only visited places Mashiro wanted. Suddenly a strong wind blows, lifting his bangs and revealing a wound. Kobeni worries whether the wound came from the past or because of her. Hakuya denies her responsibility and places the blame on himself, shutting down the topic. Later at home, Mashiro gently encourages Kobeni not to overthink Hakuya's wound, knowing Hakuya does not want her carrying that worry. Soon after, Hakuya and Mashiro receive a letter from home. The next morning they quietly leave. Kobeni searches the house, only to find them gone. Kobeni informs Benio and Nadeshiko that Hakuya and Mashiro are gone, and that none of their belongings are in the house. Benio relaxes her, remarking they wouldn't leave without a proper goodbye. After that, Kobeni quietly goes back to her daily house chores, but the silence inside the house feels heavier than usual. Every sound is missing, and that alone makes her chest feel tight. She keeps thinking about contacting them and picks up her phone. Right then, Kobeni receives a call from Mayura, who asks how her date with Hakuya went. Mayura soon comes over, and Kobeni explains she cannot reach either Hakuya or Mashiro. Mayura quickly switches into problem-solving mode and asks if Kobeni even knows where they live, then strongly encourages her to go visit them. Kobeni hesitates, thinking about responsibilities and timing, but Mayura pushes her to be a little selfish for once, reminding her this is about her fiancé. Kobeni changes her clothes and leaves a letter for her mother and sister, and boards a train before she can overthink it again. By the time she reaches the snowy mountains, evening has already settled in. Meanwhile, Hakuya and Mashiro are out collecting edible plants, casually thinking Kobeni would like them. Snow begins to fall, and Hakuya senses Kobeni's voice, immediately running ahead like instinct takes over. At the same time, Kobeni searches for them but ends up hiding inside a cave to escape the snowfall. Moments later, Hakuya and Mashiro arrive there. Kobeni explains she came because they disappeared without a word. Mashiro explains they returned home to collect edible plants and to show report cards to their parents. Kobeni wonders why their room was empty. Mashiro explains they brought clothes back to exchange them with spring outfits and takes books back because now they are second-year students. Mashiro urges her to check Hakuya's messages, but there is nothing explaining their quick return. It becomes clear that Hakuya never received Kobeni's messages either, since the mountains have zero signal. The cold and stress finally catch up to Kobeni, and she collapses. Hakuya quickly lights a fire and rushes out into the snowstorm to find help, while Mashiro stays behind. When the storm eases, Mashiro leaves briefly to gather more firewood. In her fever, Kobeni drifts into memories from childhood, remembering how she always felt left behind. She compares herself to her mother and sister, thinking she is not as smart or talented, and fears that one day Hakuya and Mashiro might leave her too if the truth about them comes out. She wakes up in panic, believes they abandoned her again, and stumbles out of the cave. When Mashiro and Hakuya return, the cave is empty. They search desperately and find Kobeni's coat nearby. Not far away, Kobeni regains consciousness near the edge of a cliff, stumbles and falls. Hakuya rushes forward with full speed, grabs her just in time, and pulls her back, proving this time he really does make it. Hakuya carries her down the mountain, refusing to let go. Kobeni questions why he keeps hiding his wound, if it is not her fault, explaining she wants no secrets between them now that they are engaged. Hakuya finally understands, and the tension melts into mutual smiles and blushing faces. Right on cue, Mashiro and the others catch up, followed closely by Benio, Mayura and their mother arriving dramatically in a helicopter. On the way back, Benio pushes Kobeni for details about what happened when she was alone with Hakuya. Kobeni brushes it off, which only makes Benio upset and suspicious. Mayura assumes it must have been extremely romantic, which does not help Benio's jealousy at all. Benio directs her anger at Hakuya, while Kobeni steps in to calm her down before things explode. Spring arrives, second-year classes begin, and Kobeni, Mayura, Hakuya, and Mashiro end up in the same class again. Kobeni suspects Mashiro used her powers to make this happen, and honestly, no one argues. Hakuya's mother later visits their home, bringing edible plants and mushrooms from the mountains. They all eat together, and when Kobeni asks Hakuya how the food is, he makes it clear he enjoys anything she makes. Kobeni blushes and smiles, and for once the house feels warm.